Welcome to the future, where the glass is half full and you'll need new glasses, where you'll be jumping from conclusions.
The past is annulled, and a new future is born.
Never before in history has so much meant so little to so many. AD on the radio.
So people were Facebooking up a storm this past weekend just gone by. I mean, football is back. Were you ready for some football? Well, whether you were or not, it is back. And just when you thought it couldn't get any more refreshing to watch baseball, which has somehow managed to skate by and remain blissfully apolitical, football managed to get even more divisive. We are, of course, talking about the Nike Colin Kaepernick thing. And, well, people were blissfully unaware of the fact that their Facebook posts mean little to nothing to Nike or anyone else in the grand scheme of things. Why do I say this? Well, were these adults making adult-informed, principled decisions about this whole thing? Yeah, they were. That's the part that people appear to miss. If you're an adult, they don't care about you. All right, Nike doesn't care about you if you're an adult. Keep that in your mind, and then let's just go back to the beginning of the situation. In case somehow we need a recap of the Colin Kaepernick Nike NFL situation, this is the deal. former NFL quarterback Colin Kaepernick is now, of course, a part of Nike's 30th anniversary of the Just Do It campaign. People have been burning their Nikes on social media. Hashtag boycott Nike. All over the place. And, well, I think Nike's back up, but at the close of the trading day when this was all announced, shares were down like 3 to 3.5%, somewhere around there. The exact number isn't important. What is important is, let's be real with the situation here. Colin Kaepernick, Nike could not have been oblivious to this. Colin Kaepernick is a rather divisive choice for an ad campaign spokesperson. In 2016, Kaepernick started sitting during the national anthem to protest racial injustice and police brutality. Some people found it offensive to the U.S. flag and the military. Other people respected and supported the decision. Doesn't matter which side you come down on this. The point is that you remember, Nike doesn't care what you think. Some players followed Kaepernick's lead. A lot of them did. It's been a hot button issue. It's been a highly divisive issue. We've talked about this many times on the show. And in case you need a refresher, in case you're about to start angrily tweeting me about my attitude toward this, I'd like to remind you that I would not take a knee. If I was an NFL player, I would not take a knee. And the reason I would not take a knee is not because I am not of the opinion that the idea of racial injustice and police brutality are non-existent, as many people have started saying they were. It's the fact that people have started saying racial injustice and police brutality are non-existent. Shut up. Play your game, you highly privileged, whiny individual, has been the rhetoric. And that's divided people. That's pushed people further apart. People haven't come together and realized any sort of all-inclusive solution with regard to how we're going to work on racial injustice and police brutality where it exists. So for that reason, I wouldn't be taking a knee, because it appears to be driving people further apart rather than bringing them together so that they can work together, fixing these very real, very important, very necessary to address problems. That's the Cliff Notes on my attitude toward taking a knee. But remember, the point of this conversation is not for me to trot that out again. The point of this conversation is for me to go, here's the thing that a lot of people fail to miss. Nike don't care about you because you're an adult. And you've been voicing these opinions and burning your Nikes on Facebook, some of you. But if we take a step back, it's important that we notice something. It's important that we notice that Nike did not do what a lot of people would do in these situations. Nike did not try and steer clear of a divisive, hotter than a potato issue and topic. They waded straight into the fray. They chose Colin Kaepernick pretty much the most divisive character in the history of professional sports. They chose Colin Kaepernick to appear in these ads and on billboards. Now, what does this tell us about Nike? Why do I keep saying they don't care about you if you're an adult? Why is talking about Nike on Facebook? Why is burning your Nikes on Facebook? Why is saying that Nike has the right idea on Facebook the last of Nike's concerns? We'll get into all of this next, and we'll discuss the bet that Nike has made.
Real radio.
104.1.
Where the left and right come together for fundamental truths. AD on the radio, on Twitter at ADSXE.
So you and I, we're going to talk about Nike and how they don't care about you in just a little bit. How they don't care about what you've been posting on Facebook. Whether you're pro Nike or con Nike, we're not taking a side here. I'm just saying. Yours is not the opinion that they care about. We'll talk about how we know this and why shortly. But right now, let's take a look at something from recent history. A little bit of historical context that's going to make this a little bit easier to understand. You and I have talked about how I was in this band for a while, right? Well, I don't know if we've ever mentioned this bit, but there was a vast change that took place between my band's first album and the second album. First album, we got handed $1 million. We got to lock out 2 major recording studios to make our record. We got tour buses. We got people to carry our gear. We got everything that we could want and need because, well, the record business was flush. This was in the early 2000s. When people were making more money than they ever made in the music business before or will ever make again. It was the days of Eminem and Limp Bizkit and NSYNC. Those sort of, I guess, what would you call them? Total Request Live days. All these bands would come out and sell 1 million copies in the first week. Like I said, nothing like that had ever been seen before, and it will never be seen again. Why? Well, because between my band's first album and second album, downloading hit. And it wasn't just Napster and Kazaa and LimeWire and all the things that you use to jack songs off the internet. It was a sea change in the music industry in general. And so we went from millions of dollars, people carrying our stuff, tour buses and nice hotel rooms, to hey, here's a little bit of cash, here's a secondhand van, get in it, start driving, and better save some money for peanut butter sandwiches. We were hit, and we were hit hard. But we were like, wait a second. The money hasn't gone out of the record business yet. Why are you doing this? And you know what? I had some friends of mine make a very compelling argument. For downloading. They said, you know, oftentimes I'll download a song or two, and if I like it, I'll go buy the compact disc. And I remember saying to a guy at our management company at the time, what about that? Basically, why are we roughing it these days? What the hell, man? What happened to the cash? Hasn't dried up. Don't tell me that it's dried up because album sales are still pretty healthy. And he was like, this is the thing. They don't care about people your age. And I was very young at the time. I think still a teenager when I had this conversation. They're like, they don't care about people your age. What are you, 19, 20, something like that? I'm like, yeah, I'm young, I'm hip. Younger than the rest of the dinosaurs involved in every part of the day-to-day business of the music industry. Why don't you take a tip from me? I'll let you know how things are going to shake out. I think that people downloading music off of Kazaa and LimeWire and all those sites, well, that's just going to lead to people buying more CDs. I know it does with my friends. And they're like, yeah, no. We're not worried about you. The record industry isn't worried about you. We're worried about young people. I was like, what are you talking about? You're a 50-year-old man telling a 20-year-old kid this. You don't know anything. And he was like, no. You will probably continue buying music whether it's downloaded or whether it's hard copy. You're going to continue to purchase music, right? And I was like, yeah, for the most part, yeah, I definitely will. They're like, right, they don't care about you. They don't care about people that have saved up their allowance money to go buy records and CDs and tapes back in the day. They care about the kids that are coming up now in the knowledge that music is free. Coming out now with the knowledge that music is free. There is going to be a whole generation of kids. There's going to be a whole generation of kids that has never and will never pay for music. They're too young to be consumers now. And by the time they're deciding what to spend their money on, the idea of spending money on music will be a completely foreign concept. We don't know what form this is going to take, but we know it's coming. Music will eventually be free. We as a record industry screwed up. We did not partner with the digital side of the music industry. We did not partner with the digital kids quickly enough. We did not partner with Napster and Kazaa and LimeWire. We tried to fight them. And for that, we will always pay. But we're not concerned about people your age. We're concerned about people that are going to grow up with the knowledge that music is free, who will never, in their lifetime, purchase music. And you know what? We're here now. That was, like I said, in the early 2000s. Now we're here. And there's an entire generation of kids that have grown up that have never paid for music and never will pay for music. And even though they were only a few years behind us, that was who the music industry was concerning themselves with at the time. And we are in a very similar situation with Nike. When I say they don't care about you because you're an adult, you might be 21, 22 years old. Sorry, you're a dinosaur. And this, or at least in the eyes of Nike, you're a dinosaur. And this is why what's going on Facebook couldn't be of less concern to them. Now, Nike are betting on something. What are they betting on? Well, we'll get into that next. You might be asking yourself, why are Nike getting involved with such a polarizing figure like Colin Kaepernick? I mean, they're bound to alienate half the country by doing this. Why would they do that? Well, this is a big part of what they're betting on.
For more stimulation and less irritation, 9 out of 10 doctors choose KPRC AM 950, Houston's more stimulating talk radio.
Don't get the blues, get all the news. We mean all of you guys out there in Radioland.
All aboard!
He's back. AD on the radio.
Give it up, yeah. Give it up, yeah.
So if you are like me, if you've been listening to the show for any length of time, you're kind of a sensible individual. You can make friends with anyone. You're not necessarily a side taker. You're a believer in this idea that, well, our differences make us interesting and they make conversations that much better. If you disagree with someone, that means you got a chance to learn something about a different perspective. You got a chance to learn something about that which you are not. You've got a chance to bring people together. And, well, move that ball of humanity further down the field, as we often say, especially when we bring up football. That's a lonely position for you and I to be in. We have entered a day and age where you are required to be a side taker. And I've known this for a very long time because, well, look here I am, doing something that seems sensible, easy to reconcile, saying, hey, wouldn't it be great if we could, kind of get along despite our differences? Wouldn't it be interesting if we could have civil conversations? Wouldn't it be fun if our differences made us stronger and more interesting as opposed to dividing us and putting us into corners where we refuse to talk to one another? Seems like an easy concept to wrap your head around. Civil discourse, an exchange of ideas. I've always said on this show that we all want the same stuff. If you look at the basic needs, the things that we're all angling for, it doesn't matter which side of the political fence you fall down on. We all want similar things. We want to be able to have a roof over our heads. We would like it if we paid for that roof over our heads with some work, hopefully some work that we found meaningful. If we have kids, we want those kids to have a shot at a future, a shot at an education, a shot at happiness. And you know what? We might not want those things for ourselves too. We all kind of want the same stuff. We just sort of have different ideas about the best way to get there. And we've said this on the show many times before. What if instead of arguing about the best way to get there, we could talk about the best way to get there, bearing in mind we're all headed in the same direction. And gosh, we might even learn something from one another, maybe even get there quicker. Well, that's a lonely position to be in. That's a lonely position to be in. Being sensible, being able to get along with other folks, that doesn't really cut the business mustard in the year 2018. If it did, I would be driving a much nicer car, living in a much bigger place. But I'm not. And I'm okay with that. I'm comfortable. I know that by remaining true to myself, I can speak to people that, well, look, the people that listen to this show, we might not have as broad of an audience as a lot of other shows in terms of the volume, but we have a relationship that goes deeper, and I'm happy for that. But this is how I know that being sensible and saying, hey, we can get along is no longer good for business, and it hasn't been for a while. I mean, I've been talking about it for a little bit, but this is what Nike have done here in this situation. If you're just joining us, we're talking about the fact that Nike don't care about what you've been posting on Facebook this past weekend just gone by. Football season has returned, and with that, the Colin Kaepernick controversy has come roaring back. Nike made him a spokesperson. He is perhaps the most divisive character in the history of sports, certainly at the moment. And let's be real here. Nike was not naive to this. Nike probably didn't care that much when their shares took a mild hit the day the news came out. I don't know what they're doing right now, but let's just remember, Nike don't care. Nike knew that Colin Kaepernick was going to polarize people. I mean, there's no way you could be oblivious to that. In 2016, Kaepernick started sitting during the national anthem to protest racial injustice and police brutality and all of the above. This is well-worn territory. Some people thought the decision was fantastic and respected it and thought, yes, we've got to have a voice. We've got to have a voice for these very important, very real issues. Other people found it offensive to the U.S. flag and the military. And these are the folks that are burning their Nikes. A lot more players followed Kaepernick's lead. Kaepernick, being the divisive individual that he is, hasn't been able to get a job for quite some time, but he has an incredibly lucrative marketing agreement with the folks over at Nike. This has been the subject of intense debate. And it's been spurred on by the president of these United States of America. Donald Trump has weighed in on this, weighed in on it frequently. But you got to stop and ask yourself, why would Nike do this? Generally speaking, when it comes to this sort of thing, we have this notion that what's good for business is to steer clear of hot button topics. If there's something that's controversial, that could be bad for business because it's going to be divisive. And, well, businesses don't want any part of that. If you're trying to sell a product, you want to steer clear of controversy, or at least that used to be the common thought in the past. But as I said, things are kind of different. If I was one of those radio hosts that was comfortable dividing people, like I said, I would be driving a much nicer car, living in a much bigger house right now. If I was okay taking a side and saying, don't talk to them, they're wrong and they're coming for your way of life, like a lot of people do, my bank account would have several more zeros at the end of the number. That occupied the very, very sad portion of the top of my statement. It'd be a lot healthier if I was willing to be divisive. I've recognized this. Radio folks have recognized this for a long time, and now the corporate world is catching up. Because like I said, generally speaking, in the past, you would have expected a company like Nike to look at a hot button issue and give it a very wide berth, thinking that it would be bad for business. But let's be real here. They made a cognizant choice when they went, who are we going to have on our Just Do It 30th anniversary campaign? Oh, we know Kaepernick. We're going to have him in ads, on billboards, all over social media. And that was because they wanted to be a part of the debate. Let's not call it a conversation. Let's call it what it is, a divisive debate. And this is where the change comes in. This is something that you probably want to be aware of moving forward. And I wish it wasn't this way, but it is. In the year 2018, people need to feel like they can slap a label on you. If they can't label you, they don't trust you. And if they don't trust you, they're going to avoid you. And so Nike, well, they don't want a label slapped on them. They want to be easily identified. In the past, being political wasn't good for business. In the past, taking part in divisive issues wasn't good for business. But this is what Nike are counting on. Nike are counting on the idea that in the year 2018, things have changed. People need to know where you stand on an issue. And they're counting on the idea that being political, overtly and obviously and in your face political with a view that a lot of people don't agree with, is less risky than staying on the sidelines or playing the middle. Nowadays, and you're going to see a lot more of this, nowadays, taking a side, being easy to understand and easy to label, is a better move than staying on the sidelines or playing the middle like it used to be in the past. And repeat that a couple times, just so we get where this world is heading. That incessant, pointless screaming and yelling that people take part in is actually an integral part of what's going to get the job done in this day and age. Maybe not with you. I know it seems foreign and reprehensible to you and me. I mean, we've been hanging out on this show for a long time, just being sensible and saying it would be nice to be nice. That's sort of what we do around here. But this is the part where we realize that you and I, we're adults. We could be millennials. We are aged out of a demo that Nike care about. Nike have been around for a very long time, and they plan on being around for a lot longer. So Nike don't care about our dollar. It's that whole argument. Nike don't care that you're burning your Nikes because they already have your money. That's true. Right now, Nike are trying to attract the next generation. The folks in, I guess you'd call it what, Generation X, Y? Are we at Generation Z yet? Whatever's beyond millennials, that's whose dollar Nike cares about. In the same way that the record industry didn't care about folks that were 18, 19, 20 downloading music off of LimeWire and Kazaa. They were more concerned with the kids that would grow up knowing that music would always be free. Nike don't care about us. They care about the people that will replace us in 5, 10, 15, 20 years. The folks over at Nike said that we believe Colin is one of the most inspirational athletes of this generation, who has leveraged the power of sport to help move the world forward. And this is the part that we must recognize. How old were you when you decided what kind of shoe you would wear? What brand you would be loyal to? What sneakers you liked? I remember being very young when I decided that I was going to wear shell-toed Adidas. And it had so much to do with Run DMC and Beastie Boys. I just thought they were cool. I didn't know anything about them other than Run DMC and Beastie Boys wore shell-toed Adidas, so I would wear shell-toed Adidas. And that's pretty much all I've worn ever since. I've had 3 pairs of shell-toed white Adidas with a black stripe at all times since I was a little kid. And they go in phases. Pair number 1, well, they're just beat to hell. I basically use those as slippers. Anytime I have to do something wet or rainy or muddy, like if I've got to walk Millhouse, my puppy, and it's pouring outside and we're going to be walking through the muck, well, I wear those. They're just beat up. They're on their way out. Then I have my sort of everyday Adidas. And then in reserve, I've got the crispy, almost brand new Adidas that I wear when I have to look fancy. My fancy Adidas, if there could be such a thing. But at no point since I was a preteen have I ever not had 3 pairs of Adidas in my closet. They got me, and they got me for life very young. Why? Because I thought Run DMC and the Beastie Boys were cool. And ever since then, Adidas have sort of become an intrinsic part of who I am. That's why Nike don't care about you and I. We've made our decisions. We've made our decisions with regard to sneakers. They care about targeting people who are 15 years old and younger. Like I said, they don't care what's going on Facebook. They just don't care. The audience they're after, the dollar they're trying to capture by using Colin Kaepernick as part of their marketing campaign, well, quite frankly, if you're on Facebook, you're too old. They don't care. They know the ship has sailed. They know that you've made your sneaker decision a long time ago, and there's probably no changing it. They want kids that are 15 years old and younger. And I mean, it's sort of working. Nike received more than $43 million worth of media exposure in less than 24 hours. This is according to the folks over at Apex Marketing Group. Nike received, like I said, more than $43 million worth of media exposure in less than 24 hours after the announcement. I'm sure that number is significantly higher now. And some Wall Street types say that the decision will spur significant debate among those in the athletic circles and community and more broadly. But over time, the power of the messaging from this new broader campaign will overshadow any potential backlash. Like I said, this is the way of the future. You'd better pick a side, and you'd better use that side to get some visibility. And that's a dangerous place for us all to be in. Nike's doing something that's good for business. And it wasn't their idea to have side taking and division dictate dollars. But it's a wave they're riding. And it's bad news for all of us that playing the division game equals financial success. We have to be better.
Sometimes you just know you're done. You're longing for that shining sun. You walk these streets most every day. You're waiting to get washed away. Radio. 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 104.1.
Now, more AD on the radio.
Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving you my musical savior. Back once again, it's your boy AD again. Nobody rock nobody better than me. Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving you a musical savior. Back once again, it's your boy AD again. Nobody rock nobody better than me.
So if you are a guy, or if you know a guy, chances are you fall into one of those two categories. You're a guy or you know a guy. It's almost inevitable that you know a guy. But my question for you is about guys, specifically men. At what age do you think men start dressing appropriately for that age? Like, if you're a guy, do you ever had this moment where you look in the mirror and go, might be time to start accepting the fact that I'm an adult and, well, at the very least, I could ditch these puka shells. At what stage in the game did that happen? Make a mental note of the age at which you did that, and we'll discuss what, according to the new study, the age is where men start acting their age. Right now, though, let's you and I talk about adults in general. If you're like me, you always hated hearing the following expression from the adult that was the authority figure, that was probably giving you bad news. And that expression is, "It is what it is." I've always hated that Couldn't stand it is what it is. It is what it is basically means you're going to have to take it. It's not going to go your way. You're just going to have to deal with it. Guess what? You're going to be unhappy with the end result of this. It is what it is. There was always such resignation in the expression, it is what it is. And I found that the older I got, the more I started hearing it from people. It is what it is. And people do that thing where they kind of sort of give up. I mean, I guess part of the giving up might be dressing like an adult, like we were talking about, but they give up. People start accepting the limitations that the world places on them. That's a dangerous place to live, my friend. You want to believe that you can bring the world to its knees, make life your bitch, do the things that you wanted to do. And, well, whenever I heard people say things like, it is what it is, man, it always rubbed me the wrong way. And I always kind of promised myself that I would never use that expression. I would never say it is what it is to myself, and I would certainly, if I ever had a kid, never say it to them. And you know what? I was very glad to find out that I was not the only problem. I was not the only person that had a problem, rather, with the expression, it is what it is. One of life's great creative dreamers and thinkers, Jerry Seinfeld, also hates the expression, it is what it is. Listen.
Before your day is over, someone will say to you, well, you never know. Time will tell. We'll see what happens, that's for sure. We know that. It is what it is a very popular phrase these days. What the hell does that mean anyway? It is what it is. Has anyone ever responded to that? Going, oh, I didn't know that. I thought it is what it isn't. I thought maybe my entire life is part of a dream sequence in the mind of a Komodo dragon on the Galapagos Island. People say, what was I saying? Oh, so even you're not paying attention to this. And I'm supposed to be taking notes. I think my favorite non-statement is I want to say. What time's that plane coming in? I want to say 9 o'clock. You want to say? Well, congratulations. I think you said it. What the hell good is it? What's the name of the guy we're supposed to pick up? I want to say Carl. So we have no chance of finding this person. Not to the best of my knowledge, no. Well, time will tell. We'll see what happens. You never know. What if he gets stranded, drugged, kidnapped, and sold into slavery? Hey, it is what it is. Thank you very much.
The inimitable genius of Jerry Seinfeld. And like I said, I've always hated the expression, it is what it is. There's such defeat in that. There's such acceptance of the fact that you're just going to have to take it. Whatever the hell the world is handing you, you just got to take it. And I'm a big believer in, well, maintaining that youthful optimism. That sense that you had when you were a teenager, that you're going to make your way in the world and you're going to make this world your bitch. You're going to bring it to its knees. That sense of possibility, that sense of life being an open road. Because you get older, just because you get older, doesn't mean you have to let go of that. Just because you get older doesn't mean you have to let go of the idea that anything could be possible. However, while I'm a believer in the idea of holding on to the ideals of youth when it comes to believing that anything is possible, I do think there are some parts of our childhood that we need to let go of. And, well, that would mostly have to do with our fashion sense, or lack thereof, when we're kids. Now, are you hoping that maybe at his next big milestone birthday, your husband or boyfriend will finally get rid of his football jerseys, stop wearing hats backward, and release his puka shell necklaces back into the sea? At what age do you think men finally start dressing right for their age? When do men start dressing appropriately for the fact that they're adult men, as opposed to overgrown frat boys? Now, gotta bear this in mind. I've chosen a profession where I don't have to wear anything stiff, starchy, or uncomfortable, ever. I've been able to get away with jeans and a t-shirt for my entire professional life, and therefore I'm in a bit of a privileged situation. But here's the thing. If you were hoping that your boyfriend or husband and finally gonna ditch those puka shells, send them back into the ocean, give them a burial at sea the way they deserve, it's not going to happen. According to a new study, the age when men start dressing right for their age is, never. Yeah, we never grow up from a stylistic point. I'm of the opinion that from the age of about 35, you need to start doing things a little bit differently. That's sort of the age I've decided to grow up a little bit in terms of how I dress. But these researchers studied men between 58 and 85 years old, and they found that men, most of them, never had a moment where they looked in the mirror and realized they were dressing way too young. In fact, most of them refused to believe that things like hoodies, tennis shoes, skinny jeans didn't look right on them at their age. Yeah. Now, here's the thing. Ladies, a lot more sensible. This study didn't include women, but other studies have shown that women are way different. They do hit points where they decide that they should start dressing differently, and for that, we salute you. So guys, if you're looking in the mirror thinking, I look fine, and the woman in your life says, not so much, she's right, you're wrong, end of story, case closed. Time to ditch the puka shells. And that wallet chain, yeah, that's never coming back into style.
Leave the stimulation to the professionals.
Everyone is so smart.
KPRC, more stimulating talk radio.
There's something happening here, and you should know what it is. The dumbing up of America. Now, more AD on the radio.
Oh man, did you see something of historical significance happen this past weekend just gone by? Did you catch what it is? It happened in the world of professional football. Yes, it was surprising to all of us. What was it? Well, we'll get into it in just a little bit. Right now, though, let's you and I take a look at the events of today in our segment, My Witness To, shall we? What, in fact, is going on in the world? Well, first and foremost, did you go see a movie this past weekend just gone by? If you did, I'm guessing I know what it is. How do I know? Because, well, it is the movie that literally everyone went to see this past week just gone by. The number one movie at the box office over the weekend was The Nun. Everyone went to see The Nun. As my friends called it, it's a horror movie about how much sex they get from their wife after the second or third year of marriage. No, I kid. It's a movie about a nun. And you know what? Man, horror movies, is it me or they all started to look the same to you? It seemed to happen right around the time that The Ring came out. Everything used that weird sort of stop motion-y thing to make corpsey looking characters that were either nuns or children or, you know, something that was, it's like the best Halloween costumes. Doesn't matter what it is, it would be better if you were dead. You know, you could be a football player or a dead football player. You could be a rock star or a dead rock star. You could be anything, and if you make it dead, well, that'll be that much more interesting. That seems to have been the thing with horror movies. We have a kid. Ooh, let's make the kid a dead kid. You get The Ring. We have a nun. Let's make the nun sort of a dead, ghostly nun. Oh, there you go. And they all use like that sort of... if you're in film, you can feel free to correct me on this one if you want, but this weird sort of like stop motion photography thing where they remove a couple frames of it to give it a sort of shaky, juddery appearance, and that makes it look spooky. And the first time we saw it in The Ring, it was scary as hell, and now they're still milking that same trick years later, and it's just significantly less entertaining. And when I saw the previews for The Nun, I was like, looks like pretty much everything that we've seen for a really long time. But apparently it really managed to capture the public imagination. It did screamingly well. Number one movie at the box office over the weekend was The Nun. Did you see it? Was it awesome? Am I all wrong? Or was it just like everything else, and if you're a horror movie buff, you've just resigned yourself to the fact that it's just like everything else? But yeah, number one movie at the box office, The Nun. And it did the unthinkable. It knocked the runaway success that is Crazy Rich Asians out of the number one spot. Yeah, it finished ahead of Crazy Rich Asians. So I guess you could say that now Crazy Rich Asians is second to none. Yeah, you could say that. You probably shouldn't, but I just did. So there's that. President Trump said he fell asleep during Barack Obama's speech last week. Yeah, Trump said he fell asleep during Obama's speech last week. Although, in Trump's defense, at his age, playing 36 holes of golf in a day is absolutely exhausting. Now, that is kind of glossing over Obama's speech. There's some interesting implications there. A lot of people say he's out back on the campaign trail. What the hell is going on? It was the first time he uttered President Trump's name by name. It was the first time he called him out by name as opposed to making vague reference to things that have been going on. And there's a lot to deal with there, and we will probably unbox a little bit of it this week. So don't think we're glossing over it with a cheap shot at Trump's habit of playing golf. Playing golf or basketball or whatever sport it is. I'll never understand it. Every president. This is a problem I have with every president. You ask me to take a side, and I don't do it. For any number of reasons. My distrust of politicians is a bipartisan thing. Why? Well, it's not limited to, but it doesn't hurt that. Every politician, every president, every leader of these United States of America seems to log a lot of vacation time and recreational time. I don't get a chance to play golf or a game as time-consuming as golf. Man, if I can make it to the gym for 45 minutes a couple days out of the week, I'm doing really well. And I'm a goofball that makes fart jokes on the radio. Where are the presidents of the United States of America getting all this recreation time? Doesn't matter if it was Bush or Obama or Trump. They're all out on the freaking golf course, and I'm sick of it. Anyways. Former Trump aide George Papadopoulos was sentenced to 14 days in jail for lying to the FBI. Did you catch this? Yeah. Papadopoulos was sentenced to 14 days in jail for lying to the FBI. I wonder what he's going to do in there. I wonder what he's going to do when he gets out. His previous avenues of employment will not be open to him. Be interesting to follow that one. Secretary of Defense James Mattis made a surprise visit to Afghanistan. Yeah, did a little Afghani pop-in. It's got to be an interesting one. It's got to be like when the regional vice president rolls through and does a spot check on the branch of your office. When the Secretary of Defense rolls through Afghanistan, oh man, you better hope the latrines are clean. Yeah. Not to say that the whole thing where he's working for Donald Trump is chaotic, but I think he went to Afghanistan for the rest and relaxation. U.S. intelligence admits that they made a mistake accusing a female Russian agent of trading sex for information. Yeah, U.S. intelligence admits they made a mistake by accusing a female Russian agent of trading sex for information. That's an interesting one. I think they also made a mistake in assuming that she was a fembot whose lady bits fired bullets, but these are our tax dollars at work. Do you see that North Korea celebrated its 70th birthday? North Korea celebrated its 70th birthday. It was a big blowout. Big deal. Every citizen got their own grain of rice. Super happy fun times. Scientists say that transfusions of young blood can combat ailments in the elderly. Yeah, I know. It's a little frightening. Or could it be groundbreaking stuff? I mean, we can all give blood. Well, actually, I can't. I can't give blood. And I can't give blood because I grew up in England. And I grew up in England during a time where there was mad cow disease in England. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that I was a vegan the entire time. It doesn't matter that I didn't eat a morsel of meat, let alone beef, the entire time that there was mad cow disease in England. But because I lived in England during a time where mad cow disease was a thing, I can't donate blood. But scientists say that transfusions of young blood can combat ailments in the elderly, which sounds a scotch vampirical, but could be a real way forward. And you know what? It finally explains why police are always finding young pale corpses in any town that the Rolling Stones just played. Oh man. Oh, do you remember the controversy? Do you remember the controversy when Pluto had its planetary status taken away? This was a big deal. Yeah, it was a massive deal. Well, here's the thing. That might have changed. Astronomers might give Pluto back its planetary status again. The status was taken away because of Pluto's lack of mass. And they said Pluto didn't qualify as a planet because it lacked mass. But, a few years on a high-carb diet seems to have done the trick. Can we talk about this one on the air? Okay. Well, we're gonna anyway. Did you see that a couple in Britain harvested their dead son's sperm and created themselves a designer grandson? Yeah. It's absolutely... This is some next level stuff. It's a wealthy British couple. They harvested the sperm of their dead son, a 26-year-old, to create, like I said, a designer grandson. And they did this 3 days after he was killed in a motorcycle accident. Yeah. They bypassed really strict UK laws, and the sperm was extracted, frozen, and exported to the United States, where the couple, who are in their 50s, chose to use gender selection techniques to create a new male heir who was born using donor eggs and a surrogate. Yeah, they wanted a male heir. They wanted to keep the family bloodline alive. It's interesting stuff, right? Now, it's completely illegal in the US, but it's been done. And this... Oh man, it's absolutely fascinating stuff. It's supposed to be the first case of its kind in the UK, and it raises all kinds of massive, and I do mean massive, ethical questions. Did you even know this was possible? I mean, I guess when you think of it, why not? But like I said, after their 26-year-old son died, they wanted to keep their bloodline intact. They wanted a male heir. They're very, very wealthy. So they harvested the sperm from his dead body, froze it, sent it to the US, and, well, through a surrogate and artificial insemination, they have an heir. Even the doctor involved, world-leading fertility specialist Dr. David Smotrick, has admitted the case was highly unusual. He said that he helped the couple at his pioneering La Jolla IVF clinic in California. This is from the Daily Mail. It's an interesting world, right? Things are changing at a rate more rapid than we can ever believe. All of a sudden, it's good for business to pick a divisive political side, when the exact opposite was true for so many years. And now, you can genetically engineer an heir from your dead son's sperm. Astonishingly, this guy, Dr. Smotrick, leading fertility doctor in America, said that he understood the couple's son, who was unmarried, had not even given formal consent to the extraction and use of his sperm in the event of his death. Legal experts have confirmed that this means those involved in the UK might have committed a criminal act and could face prosecution. Now, the doctor said the English couple lost their son under the most tragic of circumstances. They desperately wanted an heir and a grandchild, and I was privileged to be able to help them. It's a remarkable case. It started, like I said, when the couple, who are described as being an anonymous but extremely rich and notable family, so they're probably quite well known, lost their 26-year-old son in the crash 4 years ago. Interesting, right? Fascinating stuff. Very different times that we lived in. This guy's like an IVF pioneer. He created the first test tube baby for a same-sex U.S. couple back in 1997. And he was responsible for another UK first in 2001 when he helped a businessman become Britain's first single dad of triplets. He said, producing a child using posthumous sperm is exceedingly rare. I've done it only 5 times. What? This has been done 5 times in the past? And he said the couple were desperate to find someone who would be able to create an heir. They wanted a boy. Is this a crime? Should this be punishable under criminal law? Man, can open, worms everywhere. And we're just going to start And we're just going to start seeing more and more of these cases as we move forward that make us go, I have no idea what to make of that. Is this right? Is this wrong? I'm going to need a moment to think about it. Here's the worst part. We don't have a moment to think about it.